One of the things that's come up in the classes that you've been teaching, the crypto classes, is sort of this idea of, or not sort of, this idea of money being energy, especially, I think crypto, but I think money exchange being energy. And like my gut gets it somehow, like it feels right, but intellectually it's like I'm not really understanding it. So I was wondering if you could share some sort of kind of unpack that concept a bit.
Mhm. Yeah, so I do talk about money being energy. And I think when we first land on that, we first come to that idea, it can feel a little bit in juxtaposition because we're so used to thinking of money as being something physical or something tangible. And what we mean, though, by money being energy is that that physical substance that you think about, cash, you think about gold, you think about paper money. But what that object is that you have given value to, it ultimately, it's your consent that it has value. That paper, that gold is just a material.
Mm.
So the object is just a token of our sense of value. So when I pass you a note and I say this is $5, the note itself is worth nothing. It's just a piece of paper. But because we both agree that that note is worth $5, I give you that note and you feel that something has passed, value has passed. And so
Right.
what ultimately that money is a token of value, value attributed to wisdom or thought, to our time, our energy expenditure. So the reason why we do work and we get paid for that, we are valued for our contribution, our effort, and our effort is ultimately energy. So when we talk about money being energy, it's actually what is passing between two people, what is passing between everybody is a form of, is literally just a form of value. And that value is basically different, is energy being moved across the world. It doesn't have to be what the money is just a physical form of transferring value. So what paper became, what gold became, it's just a way to account for value being transferred. The other part is when we talk about our purchasing power, right? So where you spend your money, you have impact. So if I only buy sustainable items or I stop buying something that is harmful, I have purchasing power. My spending of money directs power in different ways. I either feed a scenario I like, or I like take away from a scenario I don't. So my money has power, and power is energy. It's not just that, it's not the money itself that holds the power. It's my ability to send my money, my energy where I want it to go. And the third piece is that money itself is its own energy. So it's its own consciousness, it's its own quality, and it's neutral. And if we attract it into our life, if we embrace it and we love it, it comes into our life. And so that's the kind of metaphysical, spiritual piece around money being energy. Money, as we think about it, is purely money in terms of practical, physical thing, is purely just a representation of value. It's like take away gold, take away paper. It's just energy, and it is
Yeah.
being passed between people. So Bitcoin is almost like the perfect form of money as energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I'm getting a little closer to it. Like I'm trying to connect my brain with my instinct.
Mm,
I mean, one thing I was thinking about is, in a sense, also everything seems to be energy. I mean, the way the planet operates and life itself. Yeah, I mean, I get it feels absolutely right about Bitcoin sort of being the ultimate form of this energy transference
mm,
of money,
mm.
because it is actually, it never becomes something necessarily tangible, like a coin or a seashell.
Mm.
It it goes right into energy. It doesn't even go into that process of manifesting as some object.
Yeah. It remains as energy.
Yeah, it remains as energy the whole time.
Yeah.
I
And
love that.
I think that's the piece that people also struggle with Bitcoin, is they're like, but I can't physically hold it, because we've been so programmed to believe that if we hold it, then the value is that we hold that value. But if just in terms of the seashells, in terms of the beads in Africa in the past, in terms of silver, even when we attribute value to something, when that something loses value, we say, actually, shells aren't that rare, we're going to stop using that as a monetary system. Suddenly what you're holding is valueless. So in a way, is it better to attribute value to something like gold or paper? Or can we just have, as like Bitcoin, holding value without having to create something to kind of harbor that value? And the thing with money in terms of its physical component, so as in terms of gold or paper, like a dollar note, we have to consent, we all consent to that value being that way, right? And it's like, it's all a falsity. And I think that's what it's really about recognizing, is when we are humans being born into this world, not into this society, not into this future, but into the world of the earth, everything is free. There is no definition of what is, about money or about value. It's just things are given freely. In that sense, it's like, it doesn't even exist anyway. It's a creation, but it's been such a fed creation, which it's taken on its own spirit, it's taken on its own soul, it's taken on its own consciousness. Money has, which is why we go into that metaphysical. It is now its own consciousness, and we can work with that. And the beautiful thing is, when we actually think about money being energy, or just realize that it is, that energy flows, and energy often flows where attention goes as well. So when we pay things attention, when we attract it into our life, it is just an energy that can be called in. Yeah, I don't know if I've twisted us up into more of a complicated idea.
Well, I think, no, I think you've helped, like, us down that pathway of coming to understand it, because it is sort of a difficult concept to get, because you might have been born with maybe being open to that idea, but we're so trained to think of money so differently. And we're sort of put in this box, and it's hard to break out and to start thinking. It's harder for some of us than others, but yeah, so I have a better sense of this idea of money being this energy. And it also, it makes me think about, like, manifesting abundance, and that's all really coming from you and what you're investing your energy on, in focusing on, like you said. And so it's kind of helping me also along this idea of manifesting abundance, because they're sort of related. They're running in tangent, or feeding each other, or they're connected.
Exactly, like the way that you can call in abundance, but also when we're talking about that purchasing power, if there's power with with how you spend your money, if you're spending your money on your own health, if you're spending your money on people in your life, think about what are you actually doing. You're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of them. There's an energetic feeding, because where you're directing your money, that thing is being fed, if that makes sense. And so
Yeah,
it's
totally
also
does.
thinking about, what do we want to do with money? Like, if money is literally just energy, and it's power, there's a power to it, where are we going to direct it? Do we direct it towards meaningless things, but they might bring us joy. So then we're directing it ultimately to our joy. Or are we directing it to shelter and a home, where we are directing that to something that is sustaining us? Are we directing it towards food, something that is nourishing us? Are we directing it towards like health and creams and body management? Are we using that money to take care of ourselves? And so the way that we can start to think about money, it's more like, okay, where am I investing my power? Because if you have gone to work and you have sacrificed your time and you have given your energy and you are given this energy back, you're given Bitcoin, say, or you're given cash, or you're putting into your bank, you're getting numbers in your bank account for the work and effort that you've done. You are giving up your time, your effort for this number in the bank, this energy that sits in your bank. Where are you going to put that energy to make it balanced of how much you contribute? Because that's part of it. It's like this, it's this flow. And I think that we get captured in this idea of needing to build up money for money's sake, but it's not about that. It's about, what is it actually for? Why are we sacrificing so much of our time, of our effort, of our life, of our, whatever we're investing? For what?
Yeah.
What are we wanting to use that for? And so being more mindful about where we're spending our money and recognizing the power behind that and where we can direct it. And that's why money can create so much social change, because it has power. And we're in that power, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just, it's starting to make me think, oh, I got to buy the Bitcoin dip. Put my energy in there.
Yeah.
Oh.
What would you do if Bitcoin went really high and you got all of that value out? Where would you direct that value to?
I would direct that value towards having my free time to walk through and experience nature, especially mountains. I want to, I fantasize about having a little chalet in Switzerland. And then, so I think it would be about basically buying my time back so that I can do things how I want, when I want. I have then this time to process and reflect and recharge. Versus trying to maneuver around what's expected in terms of people's energy in the current system. Yeah.
And in the current system, do you think that, or in your current way of life, do you think that the fact that you're giving time now in order to try to get time back later, is there a way that you can give less time now and save more time for yourself?
Yeah, I'm trying to navigate that. I'm trying to maybe I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I'm trying to take more time for lunch, or I'm trying to figure out when is my best time, when do I have the most energy to offer, so that I can offer others only smaller amounts of time, so that I can then retreat to my own time. It's complicated because it's these subtle moves you need to make for your individual needs. But I mean, ideally, because I struggle with having a full-time job, I'd like to spend a lot less time doing that, but getting the same income, because I've now set up this life where I need a certain income. I'm still in the system and I'm trying to break out of it. And this is one of the things that I feel crypto helps me with, because it gives me this hope that I can get out of that system at some point. And I don't know what getting out of it looks like yet, because I haven't been there. So it's sort of this constant day-to-day experience and traveling through trying to be more of me, basically.
Well, I think it's so perfect when we start to think about money in a different way, because it changes the way that we think about our life, and we think about the choices that we make, and we think about, well, what would we do with that money? And it's like, well, I'd have more freedom. So how can I bring more freedom into my daily life? Just got a cat land on my lap.
Oh, hi, kitty.
But also in that sense of thinking, if, only when I have enough Bitcoin, or where it goes up, or when I have the investments that I need, that I can take that time, because it's just really interesting to see, well, what is it that we are really doing it for? Because you are giving your time, you're giving the most valuable thing that you have to someone else, to something else. And is it that you need that much money still, like, to support the life that you want, or is it changing, adapting your life? And I think that's something that our society kind of pushes us. Our modern society is saying, it's all about working harder and making more money. But they never say for what, because ultimately, for what? When you get towards the end of your life, or when you get wherever, it's always time. That's why we have prisons, because they take away the most valuable thing we have, which is time and freedom. So what we are being pushed to do, to work as hard as we can for money, to then just say, well, what we really want is time and freedom. But they don't tell you that piece, because that's not what you're offered when you're having to work your whole time, your whole life. They just want your work. They just want your value and your energy. And so you've got to recognize that you have a choice. And is what you're getting back for your energy worth what you're giving up? And if ultimately what you want is time and freedom, how can you navigate your life? You have that power, you have that choice.
Whoa. Yeah, that's powerful. I'm going to go quit my job right now.
Oh no.
No, but yes, I think that example and that conversation, it now I'm like getting a better sense for sure. Like, I'm getting even closer to this idea of energy as money, and time being part of that energy movement. And I never thought about that regarding prisons. That's wow, that's just bad. That's a bad system. That's harsh.
And yet so many of us are locked in that system, even though we're not in prison. We have no time and we have no freedom. But we are made to believe that we are still free.
Yes.
Because ultimately we can make
You're
our own
good
choices.
at tricking you into thinking that.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think that's what money and Bitcoin, all of it does, is it starts to break apart the system. It's a little bit like the Matrix, it's like, once you start to open that box, it's like, okay, so hold on, like, everything is about consent, but we don't realize that we're giving consent. And so when you start to unpack, you strip away and you strip away and you strip away, and you're like, well, what is this all for? And what am I? Where is my role in all of this? And is it for my benefit, or is it for someone else's benefit that I am doing all of this work, that I'm doing all of, that I'm working myself to, waiting for this distant future that may never come? And our retirement, the age of retirement, keeps getting pushed. And then we see that retirement funds that have been saved for you are disappeared anyway. So it's like, we can't rely suddenly on our system to support us back. And so we've got to make that choice for ourselves of what it means to be human, what it means to be free, what it means to recognize the value of everything that we have, our time, our mind, and our thoughts. But if anybody is watching this, then reach out to us if you also feel something coming a little bit untied, because that's the first part of transformation. Bye, everyone.
Bye.